Welcome, everybody. We have a good program tonight, I hope, calling it a Growers Spotlight. And as we wait for more to sign in, I just wanted to, I'm going to share the screen for just a second and talk about the Twin Cities Growers Network that I coordinate along with the Sustainable Farming Association. This is our 5th event this year. One was virtual, in person, and the rest were not. And you could go here to past summaries. We have a lot of good information and some resources and handouts. A little bit about what is a Growers Network, and this is what's going on tonight. This is the top page of the resources. I put together what I thought was the best beginning, starting farmer resources, tons of good information. These are some great books and resources for those that want to start a farm or grow their farm, or like me, work with farmers. These are really good resources. And then this was something I put together. Different organizations and farmers, their suggestions on what you need to do to start a farm. And then they're spelled out in more detail down here. So I thought that was really good reading. So I will stop sharing that. And with that, we'll get started. Welcome again, everybody. I'm Carl Hawkinson. I work with the University of Minnesota Extension in Hennepin County, and I spent a lot of time in this emerging farmer realm. And this network was to bring people together physically and get together and go to people's farms and gardens. And it's really all about networking, which this year has made it much more of a challenge since we have to sit in our kitchens and living rooms and talk remotely. But nonetheless, I think we can get a lot done. So today, Naima Dhore is our Grower Spotlight. She's from Minneapolis, originally from Somalia, and has, I think, a really interesting story of getting inspired to farm and finding her way to Big River Farm, and now hoping to close on a farm. And so she has a really fascinating story to tell. And it's, of course, just one person's story, and everybody's story is going to be different. And the exact ways that people start farming and get inspired and find their way into farming is going to be different. But I think for what you'll see is her spirit and her smarts and her tenacity and her hard work is what made it happen. And of course, that's why I never became a farmer, because I don't have enough of those things. But so to start out, Naima, why don't you just basically introduce yourself and give us a little of your background and how you came to Minnesota, and maybe a little bit about your educational work.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Naima. I was born in Somalia. I came when I was 8 years old to New York and moved around so many different states throughout the years. But I call Minnesota home for the past 20 years. And I work with youth. Can you hear me?
I guess they want you to speak up a little bit.
Okay. So I've been calling Minnesota home for the past 20 years, and I work with youth during my day job, and I'm a student at Metro State, graduate student. Just finally survived the summer course, and I started my journey in farming. Actually, my husband and I were growing microgreens inside our tiny apartment. And so our passion just grew overnight. We basically transferred to a community garden the year after that, when we realized that we could grow a lot of things inside of our apartment, and eventually transferred to Big River Farms, where we started a 3-year program as farmers.
I just wanted to say people can post their questions in the chat box for sure. or if they want to, they can raise their hand, sort of thing. But if they could keep their things muted so we don't hear background noises, but we're doing well. So that's great. And so you mentioned Big River Farms. So how did you end up at Big River Farms? And maybe a little bit about your experiences there, what you learned about growing crops and marketing, and then I was interested in, what you learned about yourself and your own abilities and, the hard work of farming.
Yeah. So starting, I don't look like your typical farmer. Um, and so, like I said, our interest grew more and more when we realized that, we're able to grow microgreens and a lot of herbs inside our apartment back in 2009. And what really sparked that was, we wanted to have some control of what we were feeding ourselves and also our children. So, like I said, the community garden didn't work for us, but we were able to produce a lot of, amazing vegetables with our small space. But so we did a lot of YouTubing, actually watching a lot of urban farming in Cuba. I believe 2017 is when I made a trip to Cuba, and that was my second season at Big River Farms. And so our interest, like every year, I mean, we were just really changed our mindset, coming from a community that is business minded. We were driven by the idea of starting our family business, which we had one prior to our farming, but that was not consistent and stable. So we transitioned to farming, and we understood the importance of, when you're starting a business, it takes time to build, especially market. So our first year, our goal was to really learn the Western way of farming, and really, grow our, network within the community of farmers in the state. So our second year, we were committed. Mind you, we were living in Eden Prairie and commuting to St. Croix. So if anyone knows the distance between the two, that's 3 hours. That is. So, the first question they ask you at Big River Farms is, are you sure you want to be a farmer? And it's, I think our travel time really showed that, we were committed and we were happy to continue with the program. But anyway, so what we did was between my husband and I, we agreed that we would do 3-year, and mainly because we wanted to create this record if we decided to purchase our own farm, so that we have a 3-year record to present to the federal loan. So, I mean, we really put a lot of time and energy and thought to our business model. We wanted to grow our market. We wanted to network with other farmers, learn from other folks. We really wanted to collect and do research within the community to see where the gap is. And I learned a lot, from the logistics of, when I harvest and take it to the market, the leftovers. It's hard for me to go back to Big River where, I'm in the city and I have to go back home to Eden Prairie. So what do I do with this leftover? And I recognize that a lot of people that were shopping at the farmer's market don't look like me most of the time. I mean, majority of the time, if we're being honest. So I said, why are folks not coming? And, my produce is expensive. It's organic. I'm organically certified. Is it because people can't afford it? Is it because, like I said, transportation might be a barrier? So it was a combination of all of that when I did my research. So, knowing that and knowing the importance of growing healthy food for my community, we really kind of slowed down this year to really think about what ways can we not only do this as a business, but also support the community. So that, led to Somali American Farmers Association. That's really what sparked. And, now that we're in a pandemic, that became a urgent matter. So I had to change our business model and hold our products to sell to the market, and just really focus on supporting the community and growing for the elders and families that were affected by the pandemic. So yeah, we've been harvesting and donating food every Friday. and that's been going well, and we continue to do that for the remaining of the season.
That I really like you said about doing your homework. You mentioned business planning, research, getting some experience under your belt to take it to the loan, and we'll get to that in a minute. Well, I would like to open it up right now. If anybody has some questions for Naima beyond the chat box, you can just unmute and go ahead and ask a question.
I'm Kifa. I'm also Somali American farmer and have been farming now for 5 years.
Oh.
In the cities. So I was really excited about this to hear that you guys were hosting Naima. I'm wondering, Naima, this farm you hoping to close? And how we can connect with you?
Yeah, my information and my email should be on that flyer. So that shouldn't be any problem as far as contacting me. And the location, I'm not ready to disclose that yet because I'm still in the process of, there's a lot of pieces that goes into that. So, but it is a 20-acre outside of the Twin Cities. I would say approximately an hour. And, you know, with that 20 acres, it's 10 tillable. And what really, you know, got me excited about the land is it's organically certified, which I want to maintain. So although, you know, the property needs a lot of work, the infrastructure needs a lot of work, the land is rich. And so that's what really drawn us to the land because we want to continue practicing what we started, which is organic farming.
And are you mainly vegetable?
What is it?
Are you mainly doing vegetable?
That's the goal, to start off what we know, because we established a market for that. But we hope to one day in the future add other things too.
And it's reasonably close, within an hour of your potential markets.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think what people have to realize is, depending on your interest and what you're trying, if it's a hobby farm, I mean, I think you could easily find 5 acres
Sure.
living space. But if you want more land and a really, you know, raw land that is good soil, well taken care of, you really have to go further out.
Yeah.
So that
but
was
you're not so far out that it's unreasonable.
Yeah, we were lucky. I mean, it's not like, you know, we found this overnight. This took many years going back and forth, and we found this property that we felt like it was the right one for us.
And being already certified is a big plus if you're going to be organic, because the 3-year transition can be tough. Absolutely. Hey, we have Tom Peterson on board here, the Commissioner of Agriculture for Minnesota, and he's asking, do you have crops you specialize in, concentrate on, or will you?
I hope so. I actually was going back and forth with another individual who has the permit to order the USDA. They have a seed bank. So I was able to get a lot of seeds. At first I didn't think that I would get them this year because of COVID, but I was able to obtain 18 out of the 25 seeds that are known or native to East Africa or Somalia particularly. So I'm hoping to grow them next year with this new property.
Oh, that's fantastic. And so we've been working with the Renewing the Countryside has this navigator, land access navigator. You know, if you don't know, you know, traditionally, if you're from a Midwestern family farm and you grew up there and it was a farm community and you knew everybody and, you know, you had connections and you knew the neighborhood. But the navigators are helping people, the new crop of emerging farmers like yourself and so many others who don't have a connection in the community and don't know. And so what were some of the things? How did you find your way? How did you find your way to this land? I mean, did you get some help, or you just looked in the ads, or what was the process?
I wish I can tell you it was an easy process. It was not. I mean,
no.
It
That much we know.
Um, I think what really helped me get to this point is really taking our time. Like I said, we've been doing this for many years now, and when that right property comes, you'll know. But how we were able to find this property, obviously, we had to see so many and get discouraged, disappointed. I mean, I think my husband and I, many nights, looked at each other like, do we really want to do this? It's one thing that you see the property on your screen and you get excited, because they know how to take those pictures from different angles, and it's just so beautiful. And when you get there, it's a different story. It's like the building is ready for demolish. It's a demolished state. You're like, that's not what it said on the page, but okay. So we had ups and downs. It was a roller coaster, but I was lucky enough to connect with a Black farmer who actually connected me to a realtor who didn't know much about farmlands, but was familiar with hobby farms. So once her and I established a relationship, we were able to understand one another and what I was looking for. And so luckily enough, one day it popped out on that email and we're like, this is it.
No, that's fantastic.
So yeah, it felt right.
No, you got to go look at it. Looks really good. And then next door is a truck parking lot or God knows what, Right. So that's, again, I just want to emphasize what you said about it just takes time. None of this is easy. I like to think of it as we're actually kind of rebuilding the agricultural system, especially fresh fruits and vegetables, which used to ring every major city. We called them green grocers. And the suburbs pretty much took care of that.
But to your point earlier, I think what you said about, this is just my story and my experience. But I will say, I looked at it like this. It's my journey, and I'm a stubborn person because I like to go through all the process. I want to fail. I want to have all the highs and the lows and the whole experience. I don't like, shortcuts or easy way out. I like to experience the whole thing. And so, because that's how I learn. And so I'm glad that we were able to experience all of that because, that allowed us to really take our time and really learn and understand the language because we're first generation farmers. We don't have an uncle or a dad who have a land here who's operating, who understands the lingo or even knows how to network. So we're doing this blind and just going in it, but we were lucky enough to have a lot of supportive network too. And I'm persistent, so if barriers come my way, I always look at the positive side, and try to find someone who could help me navigate.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep. What's the old saying? If you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough. So here's a question. Naima, what are some barriers that you faced or continue to face running your organization? Well, I guess that's about the Somali American Farmers Association. Kazua, was that what you meant? Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later if that's the case. Another question here from Annalisa. Thank you for sharing this evening. Are you planning or do you currently sell crops that might be specific to Somali cuisine to local restaurants or stores?
I'm not selling this year.
Okay.
I'm donating all the food that I've been growing, mainly because of the pandemic and also with after Mr. Floyd's murder, I recognize that, the elders are not able to move around to get fresh produce, so we had to prioritize our, our season, and our focus is just to grow for the community and just donate this season. But as far as, specialties, as far as the crops goes, hopefully next year we'll start to sell crops that are native to Somalia to the community and market it to the state. And these are leafy greens, by the way. With these seeds, I will good things will come out from U of M. I hope to partner with them and test out these crops. And if it responds well and we're able to grow them, I think, the state will have a new market.
Well, excellent. Maybe next summer, if all goes well, we can come see your place and see it in person.
Yep.
Do you want to say a little bit now about the Somali American Farmers Association?
Yeah.
How that came about and what the plans are for that?
Yeah, so I was thinking, it's one thing that our family established our own business, but it's another, what do we need to do for the community? Because the first year when folks found out about, you got a Black Muslim Somali woman that's farming in a rural area, that really sparked the conversation about, wait, we can farm here, A lot of people were asking me, is that even possible, And so more people were interested and drawn to the idea of farming in the state. So, and so that's one of the goals, is to develop a train the trainer type workshops for the community to educate them about the importance, actually culturally specific produce with these seeds that I have, and hopefully to have more in farming techniques that are important for my community. That are, very specific though, because I know a lot of farmers who might not farm here, but hold a traditional ways of farming. They farmed back home in Somalia. And so what we're trying to do is do a intergenerational fellowship program that will serve the East African youth and the elders, so that they can learn from one another and hopefully have those youth become farmers. That's the goal. The state does need more farmers. Last time I checked, I believe there's 39 Black farmers in total. So we need more farmers. We need more young farmers. Particularly, we need more Black and brown farmers.
I would agree to that. So speaking of the youth, Tim Chase is asking, what should an 8th grade science teacher know, as I teach an environmental science class who uses a school garden to teach sustainable agriculture ideas? I have many different cultures and ethnicities represented in my classroom. 14 different home languages in my first period. Oh my goodness. Good luck with that.
Yeah. Farmers and teachers got it tough there.
Yeah. That's kind of a long-winded question, but.
Yeah. And I think what I hear from that question is basically, how do we get more youth to learn about their culture and ways to be involved environmentally as well. And I think just, one of the things that I'm trying to do is I'm learning myself too. There's a lot of things as I read and do a lot of research. I'm learning about, the crops that are currently grown in Somalia. My number one goal is to preserve seeds that are native to the country. And, I went to Somalia back in 2018 for the first time in 28 years.
Wow.
And so it was definitely a culture shock for me.
Yeah.
And, back home, like I said, I'm the first farmer known in the family. Same thing for my husband. And so, we had garden back home. I grew up eating a lot of fruits, vegetables, very communal ways, exchanging foods next door, sharing food. But we didn't, I don't know anything about farming, And so when I went back there, I was really, disturbed by the lack of trees. But one of the initiatives, hopefully with all of this pandemic, I hope to go back and plant a lot of trees, because I've done that locally here throughout the Twin Cities, where I went to a couple of tree trusts. I don't know if you guys familiar with tree trusts, but they're doing amazing work planting trees throughout the city and preserving seeds, because I talked to a lot of farmers back home when I was there, And a lot of folks were not preserving seeds. And these particular folks that I talked to, they were purchasing seeds from neighboring countries, which I find it odd.
Yeah, and that's a huge global issue of people forgoing their native seeds, buying the ones brought in from the West and the North, and then all that genetic material disappears. So there is a question here. I think you've sort of answered it. Will you be able to save seeds from your crops next year?
Yeah, yeah. Because, you know, the thing is, especially culturally specific seeds, because I feel like if our seeds die, our culture dies.
Yeah.
So that's urgent for me, is to make sure that we're preserving all the seeds. Um,
Yeah, we need that genetic diversity. Kazua asks, Naima, are you getting funding for donating your produce?
right now, no. I mean, I think what people are doing is sharing the organization. We're actually under the physical, our physical sponsor is Propel nonprofit, and I believe we have maybe another 6 months with them. So we hope to get more donation directly. And you know, it's a new organization, so I think folks are starting to learn about it, and we hope to grow in the next couple of years, because there are a lot of amazing and important work that we're trying to accomplish.
It should be, Katie had shared earlier the link to the flyer, and I think it's on the back page of the information about the Somali American Farmers Association and the web page. And people can definitely get a hold of you for that.
Right.
Okay, well, what an amazing story, and I'm sure we all here wish you the best of luck. Is there questions out there? Let's open it up. You can either type them in or any live questions.
Well, Hafa, and my name is Fatima. Thank you for sharing this story, and we have opportunity. I think this COVID-19 things opportunity for other people who are not in the Twin Cities, opportunity to join.
Yeah.
And I'm really very excited for Naima's program and how she's doing it. I am from Somalia. I have been doing gardening last 3 years. I am very excited. This year, I really planted 6 fruit trees. I'm very excited about it. And we're so glad to hear. So I was wondering if Naima you're thinking about it, like, because I have a kind of think about all the time. I wish we have a place where you can invite the community, you know, kind of like a cabin where the people can stay overnight and they can do gardening with you, maybe a day or two with you, or the schools can come for field trips and they can share the culture, the food, and all those things. That's what things I was thinking about it.
Yeah. So that's one of the other piece that really I was drawn to this land, is because of it's very spacious. So not only for growing, but also to host the community and folks that, if they want to camp, if they want to stay, if they want to participate in the training and programs that we hope to create, that all of that will be available to them, that particular land. So yeah, so we'll just stand by, you know, we're just waiting what the outcome is. I hope, you know, we get good news, and definitely you're more than welcome. It's very close to Rochester. I hear you're from Rochester, so.
Yes, I'm from Rochester. Yeah, I always see when I'm driving to Twin Cities, I see a lot of people doing gardening there.
Yeah, you probably see the Hmong American Farmers Association there on 52.
Yes, I always see that. And I wish we could have something similar in Rochester. Maybe I will.
Well, that's what I think she's going to start here.
Yeah, that sounds good. And one other question.
Yes.
And one thing, a lot of people like to farming, but one thing stops or they're worried about it is being outside the city and they feel like they are different. That's one thing you need to work on that.
Yes, that's definitely. Any thoughts on that, Naima?
You know, I think, you know, people always are curious, and I'm a very open person. I'm outgoing, so my personality tends to draw people to start conversation with me, whether they like it or not, because I'm just curious too, you know. And I think once that whatever that is preventing us to connect is removed, then you really have an interesting dialogue with that individual. And our differences, actually, we have more in common than our differences. And so, and farmers are the most humble people. And I think we're quiet, you know, and I think that once we find that comfort level to talk to one another, we establish a really strong relationship, because all the folks that I've met are, like I said, very humble, very, you know, calm, and um, we exchange information, we exchange resources, and I consider a lot of them families. And so it's a very communal system that we got going on here.
Now that I think that's important. I mean, you watch the news and all that, and you get one view, but if you go out and meet people, you know, it sounds naive, but most people are good people, and most people are helpful. That's really great. Uh, oh, here's so Valentine chimes in. Faduma, good. That's such a good idea. I just want to put it out there that there's some farms and camps that are occasionally offered to the Minnesota Land Trust, and it'd be awesome to figure out how the community could take action on such of these assets. You know, there's regular like children's camps and things, and sometimes
Right.
these odd kind of properties come up for sale, and they have like dorm rooms and everything all set.
That sounds
And
good. We'll work with Naima. We're gonna be as a team. I'm absolutely. I take sometimes 20 kids. I work with school, and we go field trips. And even though we want to participate activity, the community is doing it. Sometimes we have that background fear. Yeah, but we did it 3 times, so now we feel like other people. We wanted to educate the other people. The having space is a really good thing. So I'm thinking one day where we have goats and lambs, and you can build a little Somali house, and maybe to cook, you know, Somali food, and invite the whole community, you know, to cultural exchange. That is something really sounds great, and that we wanted for the community as a community.
and then in a couple of generations, it'd be as common as old Swedes like me.
Yes.
Hey, Naima, one thing I meant to ask was, and sorry, I'm going to change the subject here a little bit, but we can hop back. So you're getting a loan through USDA FSA, correct?
Right.
And maybe if you could share a little bit about that. You did start to mention about having experience, so that when you go get a loan, you know, you've got something to show. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that. I'd be really interested to hear about the process of the USDA FSA loan.
Right. I mean, just similar to, you know, starting your farming training, which is a lot of time and work. The FSA process is another hurdle because it's a lot of paperwork. And with that paperwork comes with record keeping. So as a farmer, you have to do a really, really you have to do a really good job with record keeping. So from sales to harvest to your plot map to everything. So based on that, and obviously just like traditional, so FSA is a federal USDA loan, and then there's different type of loans within FSA. And the one that I'm particularly aiming for that I want to get is, and this is for farmers, by the way, so I don't think anyone else is qualified. So basically that means you're a farmer, you have record to show that you farmed in 3 years. So going back to my story about us committing to 3 years was because so that we could present to the loan officer that we did production and we sold, and we have the paperwork to prove that we were at the market and we had operation at a farm. So, you know, obviously all of those details goes in along with, you know, your relationship, and you have to show them that you have a market, because it's great that you did that. It's like fantastic. So you did 3 years, but what about the next 3 years, the 4 years, the 5 years? What are your plans? And that's where it really comes down to it. And literally it took me 3 months to get the numbers right. I'm not exactly.
Yeah. No.
Lots of sleepless nights, going back and forth. You have to understand, when I was doing the farming, our focus was not to sell, 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 sell. Our focus was to learn, learn, learn. So at time, you as a farmer, when you're in a training program, in hope to buy a land, you have to keep reminding yourself, okay, I have to sell too, to show that I was able to grow and sell. So based on those numbers, you have to come up with a number that matches with, you know, whatever that you're trying to purchase. So there's a lot of pieces that goes into it. It's a lot of paperwork, but it's not something that you should get discouraged. If you are consistent or persistent and you're good with bookkeeping, I think you're going to be okay if that's your interest pursuing farming. But it's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, and or you have to find somebody that can help you do that. I've worked with a lot of different kinds of farmers, and farmers like to do stuff. My favorite quote from a big dairy farmer was, "I'd much rather use a shovel than a pencil." But sitting down and doing that is a lot of work, and people don't recognize it as work. But and you don't just walk in one day and get a loan. This is a long process, right?
Oh, yes. So I was able to submit my paperwork maybe a couple of weeks ago, and probably won't hear anything back for another several weeks. And even if I hear something back, there's another phase and another phase up until I get those keys, right? Because there's the inspection, there's the appraisal. You know, that's great. I got the loan. How do I fix the infrastructure? Because the roofing needs, I need a new roof. Where am I going to get the money? Where am I going to get the money to buy seeds? So there's a lot of pieces that will go into it. So I'm still having nightmares and good dreams all together every night, you know, trying to figure out where am I going to come up with the money to buy a tractor if I need the tractor, and other tools that I might need. So yeah, it's nonstop. Farming is just nonstop.
We got a question here from Melissa. Did you pull together a number of different funding sources to fund your new purchase?
No, I was hoping once they say, yes, you got the loan and approved, I was planning to put some kind of crowdfunding or some kind of link up and hopefully, you know, raise some money to pay for those tools that I don't have, you know, and to fix one of the infrastructure that needs repair. And, you know, to start the operation for next season. So I definitely do need the funding to cover all of those things. So I have not started anything yet, but just waiting.
So another question here from Kirsten. What would you, whoops, keeps moving. What would you consider the pros and cons of the FSA loan process?
That's a great question. So you got, you know, you could go through your traditional banking, right? And you might not, like with FSA, the three things that really drawn to us is the low interest rate and the resources that comes with aftermath. So we have nothing, basically, I don't have any funds to start with. So I'm asking for the purchase of the infrastructure and the land. And I'm also asking for if there's cosmetic repairs to the infrastructure and for future operation. So I'm able to get additional, you know, loans if I do get approved, for example, and that will help me get going. And I don't think that's what traditional, I don't think they allow that. I don't think that they offer resources that are beyond the purchase itself. So there are, like, you know, resources that will get the farmers going where they need to go, and on continuous relationship as far as future resources for those, exclusively for those farmers. I'm still learning because there's a lot of details, because they have a lot of programs too, multiple programs. So depending on whatever program that you are in, it changes what you're getting out of them. I don't know if I really answered that question. Yeah, so it varies.
That's good. That's good. Sylvia asks, are there technical resources to support new farmers in central Minnesota? Sylvia, yes, there's an FSA office near you. You can go talk to them. Katie, if you could post that resources document link again. There's a bunch of resources. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Well, okay, so I live in St. Paul, but the property that I'm trying to purchase is a different county. So my FSA, my local FSA, I can't submit my application with my local FSA. Does that make sense? I mean, I could, but it's more likely they'll route you to the purchase of that county, whatever that land is. So just keep in mind that it might not, you could contact your local FSA, that's fine. But if let's say that you're interested in purchasing a land, more likely they'll route you to that FSA, wherever that land is, if that makes sense.
So Naima, I think this is Kifa. I think what you're trying to say is, if you live on Hennepin or Ramsey, but you want to purchase land in Goodhue, you have to reach out to the Goodhue, the farming agency, correct?
Yeah, so basically, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there are cases where I've seen other farmers start off with their local FSA and eventually transition to wherever else their location of their land purchase is. But they're so friendly. I mean, you could call them, ask them questions, you know. I think they do a really great job providing all the tools and all the information. And it's always nice to go to their website because it's a load of information. I mean, for you to digest all of that information, it takes years, I think, you know, honestly, I'll be real, you know, all of this takes time. You have to be patient with us.
And it's okay if you don't know exactly what you want or what, you know, just say, hey, I'm thinking about this, that, and other thing. You know, you can just start the conversation, get to know the person, and, you know, you don't have to have everything done right away. And they'll say, well, you know, I think you should do this and that. And you just go back and forth and get it figured out. I'm going to go through a couple more questions here. Are there funding sources or 0% loan sources that community members, well, keeps moving on me, community members can contribute to? Kirsten, you mean like crowdfunding or that sort of thing?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, I do know there's a Valentine, you can chime in here. I forget her name. There's a young woman doing a crowdfunding on a farm that she found, I believe, in western Wisconsin. Is that right?
Here, it's Lizzie's farm. It's here in Minnesota. I don't know what the status of this is at the moment, but I know that Land for Good had helped create a fund called Small Potatoes in Maine. And I think that they've been trying to help work on a similar fund that would basically be like paying it forward microfinance for like pools of funding that people could use and then put money back in the pool. I would ask, that would be a project that would be really connected to those farm navigators that Carl mentioned.
Yeah.
But certainly something we can look into and see what the status of that is. I think Minnesota is a little bit more complicated than Maine because of the corporate farmland rules. So like who can invest in farmland is a little bit more constrained to keep farms in family farming. But I do really like this idea, Kirsten, of making sure people know where they can put money in to contribute to these.
Is it
Valentine?
no small or something, small potatoes, something like that?
Yeah, it was called Small Potatoes.
No.
And Valentine, can you post the Fund Me page for that woman I mentioned, so people get an idea how that works? In the meantime, I'll ask the next question. Julie asks, I love the idea of an educational farm. What types of educational programs are you hoping to host on your farm? And are there existing Somali-focused models elsewhere in the U.S.?
Yeah, that's a great question. As far as I know, I have not seen other models. There is a Somali Bantu out in Maine that specialize in corn. And so they're doing amazing work. But as far as like indigenous African farming practices is something that we're creating right now and hope to implement once we get the farmland. So that means, you know, working with the seeds that we have, in addition to, because, you know, you have to understand we're in Minnesota. So depending on the crop, our practices might vary. But my goal is to also carry on these initiatives to other states and collaborate with other farmers. One in California and another person out in Atlanta. And so we because of the climate, obviously, and continue our work. So SAFA will definitely spread out and transition to other states once we get this program up and running, hopefully next year.
That's excellent. Melissa says that in her experience, in her experience with FSA, some county FSA staff are knowledgeable and some are not. You have to find a good person and even train them on their own programs. And I think, if I might infer there, some of the FSA officers, depending on the county, are pretty much in the commodity realm and don't really talk about carrots and greens. And so, but it sounds like your experience has been positive.
I mean, yeah, I think it really depends on who you connect with. It's all about relationship building. And so, and also really telling them what you're doing. So if you're able to explain and articulate yourself in a way that that person understands and receives, because I was pretty straightforward. I said, I don't understand what this application is about. I really don't get it, but this is what I did. This is my proposal to you. And so what I did was I designed the map of the farm as far as what we're going to be growing, what programs, how we're going to implement them to the penny as far as the budget goes. I mean, I was very like visual about everything. So even if they didn't understand my business proposal, they were able to see it. And so, and that's how I was able to, you know, submit my application. And now, you know, they're done with some of the part of the phase 1 of the application. So I think it's how you approach to them and how you present your ideas and your what you're trying to do with the land.
So, you know, I know it's early in the process and you mentioned the facilities there aren't great. Are you gonna, is the plan to maybe move there and live there full time, or what's the plan right now? And knowing that plans change.
Oh yeah, I think our years of commuting 3 hours a day is done. Many years, 5 years going. The goal is for us to live there, make it a permanent home, and you know, not too concerned about the cosmetics of the home. It's built in the 1800s. It's a historic home, but you know that will take care of itself in the long run. So I'm not really concerned about, you know, fixing up the place yet. But I'm excited about the land. I'm excited about what it could produce and what it can do. Yeah, so our commuting time back and forth, I think those days are over for us.
Here's a question that came in from, let's see, how do you manage the climate? I think like winter, do you use will you use greenhouses or hoop houses for season extension? Oops.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this winter we're not going to do anything, but the goal is the following winter to have high tunnel so that we could continue our production year round, and build other infrastructures that will allow us to do year round operation.
Excellent. And I'm just going to keep reading the questions here because it's great. Hi, Naima, can you share how farming practices are different or similar between Western ways and here in Minnesota and Somalia?
Yeah, I mean, that's a loaded question. I feel like the best way to really answer it is, you know, particularly in Somalia and the crops that I have right now, there has not been anything tested as far as I know, especially these leafy greens. So it's all new, you know. The goal is to learn and study and do research in partnership with the U of M. And so it's new, it's a new phase. You know, but obviously there are some crops that I'm really excited to grow. I mean, I would love to grow bananas for my community. We love bananas. But, you know, obviously that's not something I can do here. You know, it's just
I think
not.
that's going to be a tough one.
Yes, yes.
That's a tough
But
one.
yeah. And so, you know, I think working with what we have and building onto that would, I think that's a start.
I think the maybe question was about farm practices. Is that correct? Difference of farm practices?
It's a two-part question. So I think the techniques are obviously different because of the climate differences, and then the cultural piece too. But, you know, all of that we're trying to implement and see how it responds. So it's all in, like, you know, we're in phase one, us collecting the seeds, us collecting information and finding those elders that are in the community that farmed in Somalia that hold those knowledge, and learning from them and inviting them to my land and implementing those goals. So it's all in the works. It's just a matter of getting the land and really seeing the outcome of all of that. So
Melissa suggested figs, that maybe figs could work.
maybe, yeah. I mean,
I don't know
you
if
know,
that's a Somali food, but
I mean, peanuts is one that I wanted to grow this season, but I was not able to get them on time. So, you know, I mean, there are some crops that will definitely hold up. But again, there's not research that's been done. But we hope to do that next season.
Figs could work, but it needs a lot of work. I just applied for grant to do exact that, but you have to, like, especially the cold hardy so-called Chicago one, you have to bury them basically halfway in the winter in a greenhouse.
Kifa, where do you farm? Where do you grow?
Lindstrom, Minnesota, north
Lindstrom.
15, yeah, Swedish land, yeah. You said you were a
Yes.
Swedish American.
My mother used to go to the churches and museums around there and do research. Oh, I'd like to come out and see your place sometime. Our colleague Lillian Otino from the Department of Ag says she's very happy for you, Naima. I know it's been a journey. Look forward to continued partnership within the farming world.
Oh, thank you, my friend. I think she took many of my calls of you know, our ups and downs. So she's been with me. So I appreciate you.
Anybody else out there who would like to ask a question, either chat or live, whatever we call it?
I had a quick question. What kind of services or will you like to provide to the Somali Farmers Association, like some kind of trainings or?
Yeah, so it's going to be several programs. We hope to do the fellowship program where we pair youth and elders, where they can learn the generational, workshops where they could learn from one another, and also do the trainer to trainer. So us farmers training new farmers, as well as other programs that are really focused on research and data collection as far as our seeds goes, what I have and what I hope to get more. So a lot of multiple projects that we hope to implement starting, I hope, end of this year and also beginning of the season.
And I think Naima will be very helpful if you do a Zoom one. Nowadays, Zoom is so convenient, and those who are not close to your area will take advantage of that. And as a community, we can grow that way.
Excellent. Excellent. Katie, Sylvia wondered about social support and specific crop support in central Minnesota. Can you put up the link to the SFA Central chapter? That might be one source for you, Sylvia. If you're not familiar with them, maybe you are. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Anybody else have some questions, comments? Anybody else have similar experiences they'd like to share?
I don't have experience, but I have a question.
Okay.
My husband have experience to how to farm, I have no idea. And then I'm from Somalia, but when I told him I'm attending this meeting, he's kind of excited. He's at work. But I want to know how we started, where we started, how do you get the land? I start the meeting because I just got off work and then I rushed to get home to attend the meeting. So I missed part of the, conversation in earlier. So that's the question I have. If I can get some,
Yeah.
idea or advice or.
And I assume you're in Minnesota?
I'm in Minnesota. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, I think I'm happy to offer my contact information, and you could reach me. There's a lot of details that goes into this, so I'm happy to share whatever resources I have with you. Is it Hindia?
Yes, Hindi. Yeah.
Or Hindi? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Hindi. Yeah. Thank you.
I always forget to unmute. I don't know what part of the program you chimed in, but if I had to summarize it, I would say a lot of hard work, a lot of planning, a lot of networking. But you can't do it on your own. You need people to help you every step of the way, I would say.
Yeah.
Ifra says, I'd like to start farming on a very small scale. Definitely interested in learning more. What advice would you give to a beginner?
Yeah, you got it. The key is small. Start small, grow. And I think if you keep that momentum going, you'll understand, your comfort level, and be realistic. All of this, I still have my day job. Don't quit your day job, please. Don't do that. Keep your day job because, I don't know what farmers are making money, and, there are successful models, but, that comes with folks that probably started, pretty, tough, but, eventually made it. But don't quit your day job. I still have my day job.
No, and very few family farms have 100% of their income from the farm. And the only ones that do have been doing it for a long time. So start small, get your feet wet, make mistakes, figure out what you like and don't like. I think the Big River Farm idea is great, because maybe after 3 years you're thinking, you know what, this is not for me. I mean, and I think that's a success. I don't think farming is for everybody. So that's great advice. Another question here. Are there multiple community agencies that are offering training or mentorship?
Yeah, I think you put a really impressive list that I'm like, I need to reach out to those folks too. And I've utilized a lot of those services out there. But
I was gonna say, that was not a question. I responded to Ifra saying there are, I guess, multiple agencies that are training / mentorship.
Yep. Okay.
So, sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'm trying to understand the flow of all of this, so
yeah,
I'm answering your questions correctly as they come in.
So yes, there's a lot of help out there, and you just got to knock on doors. So Jennifer, ask you, Kifa, what are some of your favorite agencies? Going to mix it up here a little bit.
Yeah, sorry. So my favorite actually is the U of M. They have a listserv, and also Big River. They do the beginner farmers once a year conference in January. But if you can get on the listserv by Martin Wayne from the U of M, that's a really good one.
Yeah.
Also, for me, because I raise animals and I also mindful of not taking, I have very small land, so actually I'm looking for land and I'm going through the process you just went through, Naima. For me, it's important that I don't take on too much debt or get into something and say, sorry, I can't really, I don't want to do this kind of crop or this farming is not for me. For example, I just lost a $3,000 heifer.
Oh no.
That's not something I can recover, you know? So my husband said, this is not for me anymore. I'm done. You know,
Yes.
you experience a lot of loss, you experience a lot of, and there's not a lot of money. I think Naima, like insinuated earlier, it's not about the money. It's really a passion and a calling. You can get a lot of times one can, in my opinion, and what I have experienced last 7 years, one can get a entry-level job and earn more per paycheck over the years than farming, even in full scale, unless you're a corporate farm, you know. So it has to be a passion and a calling and something you want to pass on to your children in the future.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, you know, I looked through, when I first got this job, I looked through Hennepin County historical documents. And if you look through the Europeans that came, you know, they lived in grass huts and they didn't have anything either. I mean, it takes generations to build. So that's great. Thank you so much. I wanted to ask too, Naomi, about marketing. I mean, what are your plans? Hopefully you get this farm and you get it up and running. What marketing outlets are you considering?
Yeah, so with marketing, what we did was over the years is be consistent with restaurants, and so far we have 2 restaurants that are committed to continue our partnership and purchase. So you know, again, all of this is relationship building. You know, so if the more that you're connected in the community, you know, connecting with those, you know, be best. I think farmers and chefs go hand in hand together. And so once you establish a relationship with a particular chef and there's understanding, that could lead to a long-term market. So it's all about connecting and going into the city and really connecting with those that are interested in purchasing from you, depending on what crop that you're offering. And it's really helpful to really understand what's trending too, because sometimes there are specialty crops that folks will grow. So it's being informed and really connected, and just learning from other folks too, you know. As we look at the climate changing and it's getting warmer and warmer, you know, there might be some potential crops that you could bring in and introduce to the state. So that's something that I always keeping in mind. What crops can I bring in and test out and see if this is a new market.
It's getting warmer and wetter too. Is the wetness is sometimes more the issue lately.
Right, exactly.
Excellent, excellent.
I would love to grow, I'd love to grow passion fruit, but I'm not sure.
Passion fruit, yeah.
Figure that out. I will be your first buyer.
There you go.
It is my favorite fruit.
I love it. I have been, I grew in Kenya, and that's the best drink to have it, you know, and it's convenience and it's cheap to buy it, and it's really great.
So I guess as we kind of wrap up here, we don't have to go to 7:30. It's a Friday night after all. There's a great comment from Valentine about the historical immigration and the wealth that was built up in farm communities with land speculation and so forth. And that speaks to how we're kind of starting over and rebuilding, and it's gonna be a long climb. Naima, anything else you'd like to add, or anybody else have some more questions?
Yeah, I think that's a very powerful statement, because we see the shift in baby boomers, particularly, you know, older white men retiring from farming. And here I come, you know, and like, I want to take over the land and produce, you know, food for our community. So, you know, I will end with this. I think local, local, local. So, I mean, for me, is localizing as much as we can. That is important, and that's urgent. And so, I'm really excited about ways to collaborate with communities, organizations. I see Commissioner Thomason, how we could collaborate with, you know, the commissioner and his team, and really introduce, you know, this movement I call localizing all of our sources, whatever that means, you know, from animal butchering to, um, you know, just localizing all our sources as much as we can.
Yeah, that's the key. There's, you know, a big movement now, people realizing there's no local meat processors, you know, the big farmers and not so big, you know, kind of big farmers, what we'd all think of as big, all of a sudden they didn't have markets, and the little local butcher plant couldn't handle what they had. So
Yeah,
I think you're exactly right on local.
Yeah, I think there's power to that, because we have seen the aftermath with the pandemic and Mr. Floyd's murder, that we collectively, we came together as a state, you know, we were able to organize, and I've seen so many community gardens that I did not see. I was like, the state is a lot greener than the usual, you know, there's a lot more green spaces. I was like, what's happening here? You know, I think that really getting folks to really get down and dirty, and just be outdoors and grow to whatever capacity. So it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And speaking of getting together, I just want to throw in a plug for the network. If anybody has ideas for other grower spotlights, or if you want to show us your farm or whatever, maybe we can do some videos. If you have ideas, suggestions, you know, we got a network this way, which is okay. I don't know what we do without the internet at this point, but my whole idea was to get away from the computer and get together, but we can do that again someday. We'll get through this. Whoops. So anybody else have some last thoughts, or I wanted to give a little shout out to Kali Graddick. He's stuck down in Georgia working on his farm down there. We might do something about farm cooperatives. You there, Kali?
Yes. Yes,
There you
Carmen,
go.
everybody. Hello, and nice job, Naima. I enjoyed.
We actually
Yes.
did a podcast together with Professor Samuel Grant, 350, what is it, Minnesota 350? I always forget
Yes.
which one comes first. Hi.
Well, that's really interesting. You want to say more about that before we sign off? The Minnesota 350?
Yeah, so my former professor, Samuel Grant, who is the executive director, you know, I couldn't say no to my former professor, and
No.
and so Akali and I were guest hosts together at the last episode. I don't know when they're going to release that, but it was very amazing conversation to really, you know, talk about a trendy word that we were having conversation about, regenerative agriculture, and what that means. So I think that means different for different people and different culture, especially here in the West. So yeah, it was a great conversation. I'm not sure when it's going to come out, but I'll definitely share that with you when it does come out. Yeah.
So they're going to have some sort of get together or conference or something?
It was a podcast that we recorded.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But there was something coming up, or I just heard something about it and I can't remember what it was.
Yeah,
The podcast will come out, but it hasn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if we're not talking climate change, we're not talking about much, in my opinion.
Right.
And all righty. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. It's been great to get to know you, and I'm so excited about your new farm. Call me anytime, or the people on this list. There's some awesome people on this list. We're all right behind you and right next to you. We're going to build this thing one thing at a time. So wonderful. What an awesome example. And coming up, I hope to do something on native landscaping, maybe something on youth in the garden, and maybe something on marketing. And then this grower spotlight would be fun. So keep those cards and letters coming, everyone. And if there's no other thoughts for the cause, I think we'll call it an evening.
Thank
And
you.
thank you so much. And thanks
Thank you,
everybody for
everybody.
for your great participation.